I've seen that guy before. He always drives like a maniac. The topic for today is something that I have some experience in, especially recently, because I just bought 2 motorcycles. So I thought I'd talk about buying motorcycles and what kind of motorcycles you should buy. So basically, there are 3 main ways most people get a motorcycle. You can buy one new from a dealership, you can buy one used from a dealership, or you can buy one used from a private sale. So what I want to do today is discuss the ins and outs of each type of motorcycle purchase. So the first way to buy a motorcycle is probably the most conventional way. You go into a dealership and you buy a new bike. Now I've only done this once, and ironically it was when I bought my very first motorcycle, my Intruder 1400. I bought it in 1999. It was a 1998 model. It was left over, and the dealer was discounting it to get it off the floor because the 99 models were in and the 98s had to go. So I went in there. It was my first motorcycle. It wasn't a smart purchase, considering the only motorcycle I had ever ridden was a Suzuki 250cc single in the motorcycle course I took to get my license. But that's what I did. I went in, bought that motorcycle, and I was quite happy with it for about 5 years or so. It was a good bike, but I have to say, having, oh, there's Brooke. Having now experienced motorcycle ownership a few times, I think that I would not have done that a second time. Now this was, keep in mind, this was 1999, and the internet wasn't very prolific back then, so the Craigslists, the Kijijis, the eBays, the other places you could buy used bikes were not around. Dealerships didn't all have a website listing all their bikes that were for sale all over the place with the prices. So generally speaking, most people back then didn't have quite the choice that they do now. So buying a new bike back then was a little bit more reasonable. So who should buy a new bike from a dealership? Well, first of all, if you've got the money and you want a hassle-free experience where the dealership handles everything for you, then by all means, buy a new bike. However, I am aware that for a lot of people, especially here in Canada with the weather as it is, a motorcycle is a luxury purchase. It's not a practical commuting tool for probably half the year or close to it. It's a toy, so people don't necessarily want to spend a whole lot of money on a toy. So the other person who should consider purchasing a motorcycle new is a person looking for a particular new model of motorcycle. So for example, the KTM 790 Adventure just came out, and if you want the lightest big adventure motorcycle and you don't want to compromise, then the only choice you have is a new bike from a KTM dealer. You're not going to find one used. The advantages to buying a new motorcycle are that everything is taken care of for you. The bike is brand new. It's probably not going to be a mechanical basket case. You know you're the only one who's ridden it. You know you're going to be the one breaking it in. Who should not be buying a new bike? Well, if you're pinching pennies to put the money together to buy a bike and get your gear and all that stuff, then you should not be buying a new one. And the reason for that is that motorcycles depreciate like crazy. And it is possible to get a barely used bike with hardly any miles on it for half the price of a new motorcycle. Buying these bikes used, we basically spent half the money on 2 motorcycles that I would have spent on one big adventure bike if I had bought one new. Literally half the money to buy a new adventure bike in this class. And I've got a beautiful Italian motorcycle, 1200cc. Sounds like a big V8 pulling away from a stop. Shakes and rattles and rocks and rolls. And if I want to open her up and give her some beans, totally can. Alright, the second way to get a motorcycle is to get a used one from a dealer, which is what I did with this bike. And that's a pretty good way to get a motorcycle, because you get some of the advantages of buying from a dealer and yet can still avoid the high prices. Now, this is the second most expensive option. You're going to pay more for the same bike buying it from a dealer than you would buying it private sale. No doubt about it. The dealer has to mark it up to make a profit. But the advantages to that are you will get the bike safety certified. And we're going to do this trick here, because I don't like waiting for these lights and I like getting away from the traffic. So as I was saying, getting a used bike from a dealer is an advantage because a dealer will mechanically take care of the bike. Hopefully they give it an oil change, hopefully they check the tires, hopefully they take a look at the brake pads. Hopefully. It's not necessarily always true, but if you get a dealer that's good, a dealer whom you trust, then they should be taking care of all of those things. Of course, the disadvantage of doing this is you don't get the latest and the greatest. It's not going to be, you're not going to get the bike that just came out, the hot one that everyone is pining for. You're just not going to be able to get that particular bike. However, you will get much more bike for your money than you would if you were buying new. Absolutely, you're going to get a better deal on a bike with some of the same features, maybe not the latest electronics. Now, the final way to get a bike is to get it private sale, and this is the cheapest way to get a bike, but also the riskiest. A private individual doesn't necessarily care about the bike they sell you. They just want to get rid of it, they want to get their money, and they want to be clear of it. I've bought bikes and sold bikes private sale, and here it's important to gauge the trustworthiness of the seller. When we were looking for Brooke's bike, we went and took a look at a Ninja 250, which was being sold by a 20-year-old kid who was pretty shady. The bike was not in the best shape, and the seller was, well, he was definitely sketchy, so there was no question we were not going to give that guy our money. The bike we did buy for Brooke was sold by a girl who obviously took care of it. She had done some modifications to it. She was an experienced motorcyclist. Her father was a Harley dealer, so it's definitely that kind of seller you want to buy the bike from. She knew the maintenance history, she knew the history of the bike, told us everything about it, told us where they'd been with the bike and where the miles were accumulated on it. Even though it was a little bit higher mileage than some bikes you can get, I trusted that she had kept up with the maintenance schedule. But when buying a bike privately from an individual, these are the kind of things you need to think about. And of course, here you're going to get the best deal. But here you also have to safety certify the bike yourself, and you have to license the bike yourself, and you have to know how to do all that stuff, and you have to get the bike home. When we bought Brooke's bike, we had to borrow a trailer from a friend. If you don't have a car that can tow a trailer, that is definitely an impediment. You can rent a vehicle to buy it, but then, you know, presumably if you're buying a bike private sale, you're price sensitive, and renting a vehicle is quite pricey. Oh geez, buddy. So you have to get the bike home. You can't really ride it on the road. I wouldn't advise it. We chose not to. We could have tried to sneak it home on the roads of Toronto without being licensed or insured, but that's risky. When I did get it certified, I had to basically walk it 2 kilometers to the local Canadian Tire to certify the bike and then to license it, and I rode it home. Funny story, I passed by a Starbucks, there were a bunch of bikers in the parking lot, and they kind of flagged me down. We had a chat. I was walking the bike along a bicycle trail. They thought that I had either broken down or stolen it. But anyways, I walked it over, got it safety, got it certified, and then rode it home. But that's the kind of stuff you have to do and be able to do if you're gonna buy a bike privately from somebody. You get more bike for your money for the same price. Pick it up here. Alright guys, well, those are my thoughts on buying new or used. I think it depends on what you want. I was seriously tempted to get that KTM 790 Adventure R. I would have still had to outfit that bike had I bought it new with panniers, engine guards, other things that adventure bikes need. This bike came with all of that. So that's another reason to buy a used bike. A lot of times it comes with the accessories you want already on it. A new bike, you're gonna have to shell out extra for the accessories, and if it's a new model that just came out and that people have been eagerly awaiting, you're probably not gonna get a deal or a break on the sale price or on the financing if you're gonna finance it. Alright, so that's all for this topic. Different Spokes signing off, and may the spokes be with you.